So we're going to look now at genetic disorders caused by separating chromosomes the wrong way. So in other words, if you do meiosis to make your egg and sperm, but you don't do it right, some mistake happens. What are the different possible problems that can happen? So for example, if you look at this, you'll see right here, there are 3 chromosome 21s. And so that means you have Down syndrome or trisomy 21. So having just one extra chromosome, even the tiny, tiny little chromosomes, can lead to lots of problems. If you have an extra chromosome number 1, you would actually die because this chromosome's so big, having an extra full chromosome just doesn't work out. So the reason that these folks live is because the chromosomes are so tiny. So nondisjunction, that means when chromosomes separate incorrectly. So the daughter cells end up with the wrong number of chromosomes, either one too many or one too few. And so here's an example. This may occur if homologous chromosomes do not separate properly during meiosis 1. So if you look at this, it's 2n equals 4 for this particular species, for this cell. And you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 chromosomes. These two should go this way, and these two should go that way. But this, they get hooked together by accident. A lot more likely to happen when you get older. But anyway, you end up having over on this side that original one right here, and then you end up getting this one and also that one. We'll kind of draw them like this. And then, so that would be really the result of meiosis 1. And then here, you're seeing what happens in meiosis 2 when these 3 line up and they separate out like this. So you end up getting the n number, right? 2n is 4, n should equal 2. This time you get 2 plus 1. You get an extra one, n plus 1. And this one was supposed to have gone over this way, and it didn't. So all you have on this side is this one. And so it looks like this at the end of meiosis 1. And here they are separating at anaphase of meiosis 2. And they're not separating the right way. And you get one less chromosome than you should have. This can also happen if sister chromatids don't separate right during meiosis 2. So here you see they separate out correctly to start with. So you get these, this one here, and you get this one here. And so you get these two, and that's great. And then these should separate, right? And they don't. What ends up happening is this one separates out just fine, but this one doesn't. That one doesn't go half of that way. The whole thing goes this way. So that means this set ends up just fine. N equals 2, n equals 2 is the way it's supposed to be. Remember, because up here 2n equals 4 for this one. This one gets an extra one because it's come this way, and this one gets one too few. So the mess up can happen either in meiosis 1 or it can happen in meiosis 2. So because of nondisjunction, some gametes receive... Okay. Sorry about that. So because of nondisjunction, some gametes receive 2 of the same type of chromosome, and other gametes receive no copies of that particular chromosome. So for example, this chromosome, this one ends up getting 2 copies of it, and this one ends up getting none. Offspring resulting from fertilization of a normal gamete with one after nondisjunction will have an abnormal chromosome number. So in humans, we have a 2n number of 46. That means our egg and our sperm are supposed to have 23 chromosomes. So here's a sperm with the regular number, and here's an egg with 1 extra. And so the baby ends up getting 47 chromosomes instead of the usual 46. So let's look at some human disorders resulting from nondisjunction. And I usually mention that I want kids to be respectful here because these are examples of problems that people can have, and they still deserve human respect. So there are several human disorders that are caused by changes in the number of chromosomes or the chromosome structure. So let's go through a few of them. These developmental problems result from an imbalance among gene products. So that means you're making proteins, but way too many or way too few of them. So the gene products are proteins. Although the frequency of zygotes formed from nondisjunction may be quite high in humans, most of these changes are so disastrous that the embryos die long before birth. So if you get an extra chromosome number 1, it's huge, you die. Extra chromosome number 2, you die. Chromosome number 21, you live typically, and problems with the sex chromosomes, you live too, so I'll explain that as we go. So certain chromosomal changes upset the balance less and the embryo survives. These individuals have a set of symptoms typical to that type of chromosomal change. So for example, Down syndrome, if you look at this karyotype, it's all normal until you get here. So you have 2 of each type, and then when you get to chromosome number 21, you've got 3 chromosomes there. And so those individuals tend to have a syndrome, some characteristics that are alike from the people who live with this disorder. So this is due to 3 copies of chromosome 21. It's also called trisomy 21, which means you have you have 3 21st chromosomes. It affects about 1 in 700 children born in the United States. It happens much, much more commonly when mom or dad, usually, especially mom, but mom or dad are older. So although chromosome 21 is very small, tiny, right? Having an extra severely changes an individual's life. So the frequency of Down syndrome correlates with the age of the parents. This may be linked to some age-dependent abnormality in the spindle checkpoint during meiosis 1, leading to nondisjunction. So in other words, when you get old, it's hard to separate your chromosomes the right way. Nondisjunction of other autosomes also increases with maternal age, but it's rare for infants with an extra autosome to survive for long. So if you have an extra chromosome 1, typically you die, for example. Infants who have 1 fewer or 1 extra sex chromosome, however, usually live, and that is crazy. Let's look at that. So unlike autosomes, a different number of sex chromosomes upsets the genetic balance less severely. This may be because the Y chromosome contains relatively few genes. So if you are XYY, well, there's not that many genes on it, so you're not having that many extra proteins being made. Also, extra copies of the X chromosome become inactivated as bar bodies in somatic cells. So here's the story. Have you ever wondered why a person can have an X chromosome and a Y chromosome, a boy, and not be all that different from a girl who has 2 of these? Typically having an extra entire chromosome would give you a huge problem, or 1 less chromosome would give you a huge problem. But it doesn't. Boys and girls really aren't that much alike, not compared to someone maybe with an extra first chromosome. I mean, these chromosomes are huge. So if you have an extra first chromosome, you die, yet boys and girls both do quite well. So why is that? And the reason is in girls, one of these 2 will crunch down to become a bar body. So it will end up looking like this, and it will barely be used. So really, everybody carries 1 X chromosome and then the other one not used so much. Now, the thing is, there are some genetic disorders that might happen on one of the chromosomes or the other, yet the girls won't have the problem if it's recessive. So we'll talk about that a little bit more when we get to the genetics unit. So although the bar body is crunched down and not used much, apparently it can be used a little bit. So here's the first example, Klinefelter syndrome. This is a man who has 2 X chromosomes and a Y. Still a male, because if you have the Y chromosome, that means you have the SRY gene, which makes you a boy. So here's a man with the normal complement of chromosomes XY. Here's a man with Klinefelter's, and he's got XXY. And so he has some feminization of his body, so his hips will be wider. He may develop some breasts, but he'll still have a penis and testes. So he's still a man, but he's a man who's, a little bit more feminine. So this occurs once in every about 1,000 births. And these individuals have male sex organs, but they're either sterile or very low fertility. And there may be some feminine characteristics. With some men there is, and with others not quite so much. And some men choose to take some testosterone, which will kind of put them back into the regular male body type. So a Klinefelter's man, though, has normal intelligence. So his body's a little bit different, but his intelligence is normal. And so here's what his karyotype will look like, XXY. Males with an extra Y chromosome, XYY, they're actually not that much different from other guys. So this occurs in 1 in about every 1,000 births. Probably they're not so different because the Y chromosome doesn't have that much on it. So they're somewhat taller than average. They usually have no unusual physical features, so their body's not typically super different. They have normal intelligence, although there are more boys with XYY who have some kind of learning problems. So typically, they're a little bit different, but they probably don't know that they have, something different about them chromosomally. Trisomy X. So here's the issue. It's a girl because there's no Y chromosome. So these are 3 X chromosomes and it's showing you no Y. And so she's got 3 instead of 2. And so that occurs once in about every 1,000 live births, like the others. And these are female because there's no Y chromosome, so there's no SRY gene. They have normal intelligence, although some of them have learning problems. And usually they're a little taller than average. Here's another one. This is a girl who has an X chromosome, but only one X chromosome. So instead of XX, she's just X. And so you call this monosomy as opposed to trisomy, mono meaning one, monosomy X or Turner syndrome. And so these girls have some more serious differences from maybe the XYY boys, for example, or the XXX girls even. So this occurs once in about every 2,500 births, and the girls are usually sterile. It produces characteristics that are recognizable. So certain physical abnormalities, they're usually short. They usually have swollen hands or swelling of the hands and feet. They have a broad chest and a low hairline. So where the hair starts off the forehead is going to be low. They have low set ears. You can see the ears are a little bit lower here. And the necks are wide. If you look at the kind of a webbed neck, it's called. Um, so there's some physical differences. All right, so those were all of the major issues that occur when you have one extra or one fewer chromosome. Now what we're going to look at are changes in chromosome structure. And I think I'll start a new one for this.